Hi, everyone.
All right, so that's Sai. So if you have any questions pertaining to him, please put it down in the Q&A session. All right, and our final one for today is Dominic Luke. Dominic has been an actor, director, and performing arts coach in theatre since 2003. He is passionate about storytelling through voice and movement and conducts workshops for people for all ages. Currently, Dominic runs a musical theatre school in PJ and also works at Asia Pacific International School. Dominic, would you mind giving everyone a wave?
Hello, everyone.
So that's Dominic. So if you have any questions pertaining to class formats, events, and stuff like that, you can always ask him or address your question towards him. I'll be reading it in the Q&A. So what is this Q&A thing I keep telling you about? So if you click on your screen, you should be able to see Q&As as a clickable button in the middle of your screen. I would like to direct any questions specifically to be had in the Q&A. If your question is in the chat group, I will unfortunately miss it. So I would really appreciate if everyone put your questions down there. But without further ado, I'm going to end this. And now I'm going to invite Puan Laili to give an introduction about what everything is all about. Lily, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Teacher Umar. Teacher Umar is one of our eKelas teachers. Okay, so Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much to our panelists who are very committed and allocate their time for the second installment of our webinar this week. Thank you very much. And all the teachers out there from wherever you are connecting from, thank you for spending your precious morning hour with us with Maxis eKelas in this webinar. All right, so I think most of the teachers out there have heard about eKelas program because we have been supporting in the HIP briefings and our HIP competition. But on that note, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the SKK who basically recognized us since 2019 to help support HIP and enable us to meet the teachers, give a briefing about eKelas and roll out eKelas competition to the schools. And I understand Nadira from the SKK also joined us this morning. Hi, Nadira. All right. So allow me to share a little bit more about what eKelas program is all about. So giving back to community has always been an important part of Maxis, and we are passionate about creating positive long-term, impact to the communities that we serve, and we do that primarily through education, which we are very passionate about. And as a technology company, we are passionate about leveraging technology to empower community, to help community to always be ahead, especially in this space, in enabling new ways of learning. So, and this is anchored by Maxis eKelas, which is our flagship program for the community. And the program is about helping students to improve their academic performance. So eKelas is available for students from year 4 until Form 5, and it focuses on the 3 key subjects of science, math, and English. And of course, right now, we are running the English competition for the HIP program. So most of the eKelas learning experience are basically delivered via live tutorials, which we have every week, and also the portal, www.ekelas.com.my. So if you have not registered into the portal, please do so. So we have activities there, digital activities, content aligned to national syllabus, basically free for teachers, for students to use. So, and I'm proud to share, since we launched the program in end November 2016, we already have about 41,000 students registered into the portal, and eKelas basically available in schools nationwide. So having delivered our own live tutorials, since the pandemic last year, so we have some insights into, in terms of digital learning, what worked, what didn't. So we thought that we want to share those experiences with the teachers here. And that's how we started to, have this idea about wanting to have this kind of webinar to share our stories. So with that, I look forward, to interesting session like we had last week. And over to you, Teacher Umar.
All right, thank you so much. So if you're still wondering what this portal is about, because we mentioned it a lot, I'm going to share it one more time. And this now will be a full run through of how we can go to the portal in 3, 2, 1. All right. So can everyone see this? If you can, please do tell me on the in the chat area. If you can't see it, do tell us also so we can sort it out. After I do this, I will then discuss our rules of engagement for today, because I'm seeing a lot of notifications of raised hands, and so I will address that in a bit. But I would like to just go through this portal with everyone first. So first, put onto your browser eKelas.com.my. This will bring you directly to this page. If not, please look for this page, where this is the landing page that you will need to go to. Then you'll need to log in. As teachers, yes, you also need to log in, because that's how we track and communicate with everyone. It's our gathering hole. So we are going through an MCO, and so we aren't physically able to meet each other. And not just that, we are all separated through large distances. This portal is where we will be discussing, sharing notifications, updates, and even directing our students to. So ideally, teachers also should be accustomed and comfortable in using the platform. So we're looking forward to having your registrations there soon. So after you register, click daftar log masuk semua tu, and then you're in. You can then go click HIP Story Fest, which is really important, because right now it's the only way your students will be able to get national level COCO marks, which is great, PAG SK marks. So what is HIP English Story Fest competition for this year anyway? This competition is divided into 2 parts. One is either you can go for write an essay with a topic that is already provided, or record a video of the students themselves telling a story based on a prepared script. Now, to do that, they'll need to first register on the portal, click this, then choose the appropriate category depending on whether they are lower secondary, upper primary, or upper secondary. So I'll click lower secondary, essay writing. So I'll click that. The below windows will then show the windows pertaining to that level. You want to go to essay writing guidelines. There we go. So essay writing guidelines, you want to click it to see what are the guidelines for this essay writing competition. Just a moment. Hold on. Okay. And then you can go through all these windows as a guide as to how to approach the competition. Oh, there we go. Update essay writing guidelines. There we go. Just a moment. Start course. All right, so then you'll be brought to this page. So I won't read out everything. Ideally, everyone here will be able to go to the platform themselves, find that window, and then go through it in more detail. But the few things that we want to just point out is that the deadline is 30th of June. Ideally, registration and submission is done by then. The deadline is 30th of June. Once you submitted, the first submission is the only one that counts. If you resubmit, we won't count the second submission. So please make sure that your students have submitted their best work. If, like, say you submit it one time and then the second one's better, it will not be accepted. It's always the first submission. So first is best. There are a few guidelines to it. For example, standard 4 to 6, which is upper primary. Word count is lower than form 4 to form 5. So these are the few things that you want to particularly be specific with the students as you approach this competition. All right. I think that's it. Now we're going to move on to the question part. But before I start the question part, just going to quickly explain how we're going to do this. One, I know that it's usual Zoom behavior or Zoom rules to raise your hands or click raised hands to ask a question. However, we will not be able to address questions live to each participant simply because it will be too heavy for everyone else to watch. As more videos come in, there's more data to watch. And for some people, it's going to be hard to get all that information clearly and smoothly. Two, questions should be placed in the Q&A section. I'll be checking the Q&A section sporadically, and then picking out a question for the panelists to answer. And then one or two, all three will then attend to the question presented. Finally, if you have anything you'd like to say, please make sure not to spam the chat, because we do want to make sure we can see everyone's responses and or inquiries or even responses to answers or questions. All right. So without further ado, we do have a few questions that were submitted before. This is a RSVP session. So we do have some questions that were given to us before this. So one of the questions is, besides teachers and students, how do we get others involved in HIP activities as well as promoting the use of English? And we have here two categories: parents from various backgrounds, and two, Second, school admin and non-teaching staff. So two categories are parents from various backgrounds and school admin and non-teaching staff. How do we get others involved in HIP activities as promoting English users? Right. Before this one, I would like to invite Puan Selina. Would you like to have your remarks for this?
Yes, Omar, thank you very much for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, hello, hi. This would be my advice. When you talk about involving parents and the non-teaching staff, it is not totally the responsibility of the English teachers or the English panel themselves. You have to rope in the whole of the school, especially your head teacher, your pengatua, or your guru besars. And they know this. When we talk about HIP or highly immersive programs, it is a whole school approach. It does not rest solely on the shoulders of the English teachers, although many would have thought that. But if we get the head teachers, if we get the senior teachers to be totally involved in getting the parents on board, we've talked about the parents first. I'm not saying it is an easy task, but it is doable. But you have to be very resolute in your strategies. Don't give up at first attempt. Sometimes at first attempt, we try to bring in the parents and they don't come. And we say, okay, that's it. We'll just do it ourselves. No. You have to work your way into their hearts. There are ways, there are strategies to do so, but you need to get the parents to feel that we do not expect they themselves to speak solely in English. Their role would be to support. Whenever you give the students any projects or any activities at home, more so now that we are more on remote teaching in this pandemic era, we just need the parents to just be supportive, to be there when the kids don't have that conducive atmosphere to work in, maybe just to look through the activities. This would be the same if you are getting the parents to look through their homework. But of course, the parents who have this proficiency in English, it is more of a bonus to the kids. I have seen successful schools which could rope in parents, but of course, we don't expect 100% involvement. But it's okay if you can try bit by bit, little by little, gradually get the parents themselves to convince the other parents to be in. In schools nowadays, we have what we call it a KSIB or Kumpulan Sokongan Ibu Bapa, where the teachers are linked to the parents. They can communicate maybe in their WhatsApp group. That is even more helpful. I would say when I was with schools, I've seen their programs where they get the parents maybe during the birthdays. They would sing happy birthday. They would try to speak short lines in English to the children. For the kids, it means a great thing to them when they can see that their parents are supporting them. Now, this is for parents-wise. Sometimes they have fairs. They do some activities in schools where they get the parents to come into school, And with this story fest writing in, more so, we can get the parents to just look at the kids, probably be with them, accompany them when they are writing the essays. It's very helpful. Okay, so I would like to move on now to the staff, the non-teaching staff. That's far easier actually if you get the principals or the headmasters to actually ask them to rope in and maybe put a few signboards in offices, at the canteen, create the English atmosphere in school, get them to help out. I have seen schools where the security officers themselves were taught how to speak a few lines in English when they welcome visitors into the school. And a very effective strategy will be getting this short workshop on English communication, simple English communication, not just for the teaching staff, mind you, because we also have to rope in the other non-English teachers. And sometimes they'll also get inhibited if they are not very good in English. So get it started by having these communicative workshops, get the English teachers to help out, and then set up a communicative link in school whereby everybody can try to come in and speak simple English, like wishing happy birthdays and things like that in school. So that's a bit what I can share. But what I want to say here is you have to be resilient, you have to be confident, and do not give up after few trials. It's going to be very satisfying for you as a teacher to be able to get in parents and non-teaching staff to help you with HIP.
True. I agree. It's the small things. I still remember when growing up in school, the teachers that were more wacky or loud or doing the small weird things like, "Good morning, Uma. How are you feeling?" And I'll be like, "Good morning, teacher. I'm feeling okay." I remember that all the way up to this day, and I know how to properly use it without fear too much. Even though, honestly, looking back, it was kind of weird. I mean, yeah, but it's cool. It's the time for you to be weird and learn and everything. But we do have to admit this. Puan Selina was a headmistress, so she did have all that power in her hands. So let's go to Sir Asa and Dominic and see how they approach this problem. The essence of this question is how to get everyone on board with all these movements, these ideas, and how to get this learning going outside of the classroom. So Sir Asa, Dominic, how do you two approach this?
Yeah, you know me, right? I'm more into the social media thing, right? So this is where the social media comes in, because the content in our social media can be accessed by everyone, parents, right? The children, the school staff. So this is where our content, activities that we create in our social media can be participated by them at any time, right? So I have these parents who DM me, wanted me to do content on simple phrases, everyday phrases that they can use with their children, like how was school? Have you done your homework? So this kind of response that shows that the parents are also interested in learning English to educate their children. And I do see a lot of English teachers nowadays are using YouTube, creating contents like vocabs and grammar. It's a good effort, but it is better if we can copy the materials and put it into social media such as TikTok and Instagram, because this is much more trendy and hip, and it is highly favored by students right now. So that's my opinion.
Thanks, Asai. I actually saw a few workshops in the past year that explored this. There's a name for it, but it's a brand name, so I won't mention it. But it revolves having 1 minute presentations about normal things children love, like what does basin mean, or what does sheesh use in context mean? Because the 1 minute format works for social media, they recorded it and posted it online. So it was a lot of fun to do with the students. But what about theatre and all that? That's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, apa benda theatre ni? How does it work? Dominic, take it away.
Well, to answer the question, I would say, like Puan Selina said, being resilient is very, very important. We're talking about trying to get parents involved, trying to get non-academic staff, everyone within the community to be part of this. From my angle, I would say, yes, it will take time to get everyone involved, because it is it's not easy to get people to do things that they weren't really interested in the first place. But so for example, parents, like Puan Selina said, it feels like we have to try and do a salesman's job. We have to try and sell the idea. We have to share what the aims are. We have to, I think, communicating the whole idea and the whole concept of why we're doing this, make it clear, make them excited with us. That's very important, because if they feel very distant from this project and from this idea, they won't see the whole point of it. So I think sharing with them, telling them what they can do to help. From a theatre point of view, get them to play different characters or give them lines to say. So just tell the parents, this is your line for this week. Ask your child when they come back home, how was school today? Tell me what you did in school today. Just tell them this is the sentence to ask your child today. Ask them in English, or like Puan Selina said, different people in school, maybe the security guards, you can give them a specific line to say to people, welcome, good morning. Everyone has a specific role to play and specific lines to say, and people will get used to saying it. Once they're confident saying it out loud in English, they might want to ask you for more. Tell me, what else can I say? I want to know more English sentences to use. in different situations. And I think that would naturally and gradually change the culture. I think sometimes it's just playing with psychology. People are afraid to use a new language. People are afraid to go into a different comfort zone. So we just have to help them. I think our job is very challenging, but it is satisfying. We just need to be very patient. Like Puan Selina said, it is a tough job, but it is something that we need to slowly wait for the results to show.
Something in common that all three panelists have is that they've approached taking something that's weird, that's pelik, because when you're using something you're not used to using, specifically the English language, whenever we find a new word, it just feels so weird on the tongue. And I feel like there's a common approach to it that you still have to keep doing it. In a way, it means as teachers, we have to embrace being weird. We have to embrace looking for the pelik things. TikTok is a new social media, and I'm relatively young, I guess. And even I was like, TikTok, cukup lah 3 Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's so much things to go through already. But the children are on TikTok. And for better or for worse, as teachers, I think it's a fun thing to embrace. Embrace what the younger generations are looking at. And that's part of us learning from our students and exploring and enjoying the learning experience together. All right, so this was a really fun question to approach. Like I said, some of the questions are really fun to do, and addressing them have been an amazing experience. I'll do one more from here and from our pre-prepped questions from the teachers, and then I will go to the questions that were placed in the portal, on the Zoom call. So number 2 is, what if students come from poor families and do not have the resources to take part? So what happens then? How do we make it so that even any group or any family circle can participate? What's a budget-friendly activity that we can do to explore learning? And I'll start this with Dominic.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And I think it's important to understand our community, our students first. What resources do they have? I think we cannot assume that they have what we think they have. I think it's important to ask what they have, what kind of access they have, and to what resources. It's good to understand them, not directly asking them, do you have this, to make them feel inferior, but maybe just have more regular chit-chats with them and understand what it is that they have. And I think once we know what they have, we need to find ways to use what they already have and not make them get out of their way to find something that is really almost close to impossible for them. So I think the first step is learning and understanding our students more and their families and what they already have. And then we need to think of ways to use what they already have. So if they don't have a good internet connection, we obviously are limiting them if we force them to use lots of resources on the internet. If they don't have a laptop to use, and maybe one laptop for the whole family, then we need to think of more non-digital ways. So I think the first step I would go with is understanding what they have and then figuring out what we can do with what they already have.
Thanks, Dominic. So I like that because it changes the conversation from, so what do you not have, or do you have this, which usually is either yes or no. And if it's no, it's a negative response. The question would be then, what do you have to work with? And then making the best of that. I've enjoyed having classes with students in rural areas who did theatre shows, because Maxis eKelas does theatre also classes for students. And because they were in such wide open spaces, they could scream and shout and have fun and not be a problem to anyone else. Students in apartments couldn't do this. So that was making the best of what they had. But we also have another panelist who has a specialization in this. So Sir Asai, how was your experience working with these different demographics?
In my school at the moment, we have a lot of less fortunate students. So what we did was during our online classes, they would go and join their other friends, their neighbors, sometimes their classmates, because they live near to each other. So that's how they join and participate together in my school. Okay, I think it's also the same issue with other schools in Malaysia, right? There are students who are poor and they don't even have the gadget, right? So that's one. And another one is like by preparing them offline modules, we give them beforehand. Sometimes we leave at school and they will come and pick it up. And next week we would check up with them. So that's one of the ways.
I think checking out on students is a really big thing that we sometimes overlook, because let's face it, not just the students, even we have sometimes a hard time keeping track of the projects that we are doing unless there's something to remind us, a notebook, a ledger. And we have years of experience practicing on keeping this this like checkbook of what we need to do, a reminder of all that. So our next question from the list of questions that we have is number 4, which we will not address just yet. Number 4 is getting low proficiency students take part is a major challenge. What are the possible solutions in terms of approach and methods or activities that teachers can use? But before we go to that question, I'm now going to go to the Q&A session for today's session. First question was by Putri Azira. She asks, last week I saw it. Oh, it's gone. Oh, well then. Let's see. So let's go to Rajaswari Murthy. How about the rural, thank you. So how about the rural school parents? They can't guide the kids. I have tried so many times and they're just shy, and we don't know how to advise them anymore. So how would we approach that? How would a conversation with the parents go? I think I'll bring in Selena for this. Would you like to address
this? Thank you. Like I said, we won't expect the parents to speak in English unless if we were to give them few liners or some word cards for them to take home and maybe share with their children, things like that. But it's them being there for their kids that's important. Myself, both my parents don't speak in English, but I could speak well. And it's not more of my going towards their language proficiency. It's more of having that pat on the back. Say, well done, Selena. Oh, you won your debate for today. Of course, in Malay. Well done, good, do your best. That's what we want from the parents. Not just like, what are you doing? I'm doing English, Mom. Okay, good. And you watch your drama for the week. Getting our children to also watch English programs on TV is also a good gestures by the parents, you know. I mean, you just don't put up drama minggu in every time, you know. But sometimes give some good sitcoms like Friends for the children to watch, and maybe provide them with some English materials. That's what I would always say. Get your kids to read and read and read. That is a good way to get them to learn English, to acquire the language. But of course, as I've said, the only way for us to support, to get the parents to support, is for us to keep communicating. Keep communicating with the parents through your WhatsApp group, or probably get a day where you can get the parents to come in and get them to see what their children have managed to come up with. Showcase their children doing activities in English and get them interested, especially the primary school students, because, you know, the parents of the younger children, they love to come in and watch any activities that the school would hold for the kids. And that I've seen so far as compared to the secondary school. And I have seen successful schools which have managed to get the parents to come in, even the Orang Asli school, mind you, from my experience as the officer. And this all can be done if you can sit down, get the teachers to come in as well, and get the parents on board, have teh tarik with them, whatever. It's a strategy on your part, because each schools, they work differently. They have different backgrounds for the parents. Some of them will be the Felda settlers. Some of them could be fishermen. Some of them would be parents who are quite busy and they are always not at home. But the way to communicate nowadays, alhamdulillah, with all the technology, you can easily get in touch with the parents. You can speak to them, message them. But as what Dominic had reminded many times, the word that I've used was resilient. Do not give up. Just because they're from the rural area, from the kampung, that doesn't mean that automatically they're not interested in the school. You have to get them on board. Communicate with them always and never give up.
True. Thank you so much. I have found that actually recording yourself in a video format helps. Like I did have a comment in the chat reminding me to slow down. And that is a problem that I do have. So I am constantly working on it. And what I found is that having a pre-recorded video to send to the people I'm communicating with helps them go back to the information without having to be like, what was just said? But Sir Sai, how does your conversation go? You work with TikTok with your students, and does the conversation come up with the parents? And if it does, How does it go?
What do you mean?
So pertaining to having conversations with the parents and giving them advice on how to approach learning, is there any moment where this conversation comes up with the parents approaching social media use or even in their classes? Like, what's going on, teacher? Why are they using their phones?
Oh, only in Instagram, not in TikTok. When we discuss about parents, because parents nowadays they are more into Instagram rather than TikTok. So that's how we discuss with each other. And I would like to answer. There's one question here, Umar, from Muhammad Saifuddin, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I have a question for Sir Asai. Other than TikTok, what are other platforms that you use with your students to encourage them in using English language? So like I said just now, Instagram is the best alternative because it's not just videos. You can also post pictures, and students love to have selfies, OOTDs. So we ask them to have caption, right? Use simple English to describe your photos, and we have stories. So these are much more fun compared to TikTok.
Okay, thank you, Sasai. I agree, and like Instagram does have a new feature, Reels, which functions more or less the same to TikTok. It does give you almost the same amount of control in editing the video in content as TikTok without having as much content as TikTok, if that makes sense, because TikTok is like a barrage of information. Sometimes a bit too much.
Yeah, there's a lot of negative perceptions to TikToks. It's not about dancing, actually. It's not about miming, but there are a lot of educational contents in TikTok.
Once you get past all that content that's about dancing and stuff and start liking the right accounts, that's when your FYP becomes crisp with good content.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sasai. So just to quickly respond to a related question by Zurina Mama Khalid, I'm going to answer this live. Pupils are more attracted with all the modern apps, especially TikTok. Is there a possibility from Maxis to open more types of competitions instead of writing essays and storytelling? Lily, you want to chime in?
Exactly. So, because the other area that we're looking at will be probably STEM, to create, generate more interest, more awareness about STEM. So that will be one area that we'll be maybe looking into in the near future.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the previous question that I mentioned, which was getting low proficiency students to take part is a major challenge that a lot of teachers face. What are the possible solutions in terms of approach and methods or activities that teachers can use? So I think for this one, I'll start with Dominic first. Dominic?
Yeah, thanks. There are actually so many ways. I would say the keyword for us as teachers is to be as creative as possible. I can go to specific ideas, which I will soon, but I think we always need to do our research. There's so many things online that we can find out nowadays. We ourselves have access to lots of different drama games, different ways of teaching English and other things, not just English, but other subjects. We need to build our bank of resources, keep a logbook of all the ideas that we can use. Because I think every school and every student will have a different way of absorbing things. Some are shy, some schools are more awake, some schools are sleepier. If you know what I mean. It's harder to pull students up. We need to have a bag of tricks always available for us. And we need to be, I use the word creative as teachers. We need to create ways to get students to be involved. So from a drama point of view, I understand it is sometimes very difficult when you tell students that we're doing a drama game or we're doing a theater activity. The minute you say things like that, students get a bit scared because, oh no, we're doing something drama. I have to act. I have to do something that I don't like. So I usually don't I don't use words like drama games or theater games with students. I don't tell them what we're doing. I just lead them slowly into an activity where I get them to talk. So, for example, if I ask a student, where did you go yesterday? And they said, oh, I went to buy dinner at this restaurant, at KFC maybe. So if they went to KFC, then I'll ask them, so what did you do in KFC? What did you eat? And slowly I'll create a scene where we're all in KFC now. How did you order your food? What did you eat? Where's your parents standing behind you? Where are they? Who did you talk to? Just create a scene and get them to pretend that they're in KFC, and then each group will have to reenact a KFC scene. For example, this is just an example, but I think don't tell students what our plan is. Just slowly lead them into it so that they don't feel nervous and like they're being judged. I realize students are very scared when they think that we are watching them and grading them and judging them. We need to make them feel comfortable and safe with whatever we're doing. So my two key points are: be creative, find all sorts of ways to go into their minds without telling them that this is what we're doing, because then they get a bit scared. Yeah.
Sasa, would you chime in for this one too?
Yeah, for me, it's best that if we have a support system for the students, both from us and from their peers. Sometimes I bribe my students, my good students, to to motivate other students, the weak students, saying that you can do this, and ask them to join their groups, even though they don't like them. Okay. And another thing is that we do competitions. All right. That's one way to get students to participate. So the competitions here is the prizes we should give according to levels. If you only focus on the good ones, it's unfair for them. So like in KPM, the students need to learn at their own pace and at their own level. So that's how I actually differentiate the prizes for my students according to their levels, not just focus on the good ones.
Okay. So there was a conversation about like basically guiding the students to participate in the activities without it being too obvious, and then giving them a sort of reward, and not a blatant reward, but like giving them something that they enjoy participating in. So this is a question that goes across the board, because there's a common question that keeps coming back up. Are there more activities that we can explore to get students, even the parents, involved in learning past the classroom? How do we invoke that? And not outside of the usual stuff that we've done in schools, because we are now dealing with MCO. We've gone through a whole year of MCO. What are there more online ways to get that participation directly, like not just from like in class then to online, but this is directly purely in an online situation? But before we address that question again, because it has been a while and there are quite a few more participants, I will just refresh the page, refresh the session, and remind everyone with, hi everyone, thank you for joining. My name is Teacher Umar. We are now going with a teacher's workshop and approaching HIP, high intensity program, where we focus on getting teachers teaching the students and in making them enjoy learning the classes that go past the classroom, going past the classroom doors. We're exploring online formats. We're talking about how to get students engaged. We're addressing questions, which you can do by placing your question in the Q&A section. And if you want to just communicate with other teachers on here, you can go to the chat section. All right. Now, there have been multiple requests, so I'm going to give the panelists a short break to just think about the question, like that formulate first. I'm just going to quickly bring up the website again. Just the landing page, so you know what you'll see when you find it later. And okay, there we go. So when you put in eKelas.com.my, or when you click the link that was provided before this, you will see this. So this is the landing page. If you find anything else, you might have gone to the Maxis page, which is a whole different platform for other types of users. We're currently focusing on the eKelas platform. That's a platform meant for students and teachers. So what you want to do is you want to quickly click Daftar or Log Masuk and register yourself. That's the best way for you to get all the information, all our past slides, documents, our registration forms, everything there. After you've logged in and registered and logged in, you will be brought to this page. And after you click HIP Storyfest, you will find this information. There's a few questions that were previously asked, like if they just participate, will they get PAJSK marks? Yes, they will, because as under participation, if your student wins, there's a whole different tier for that. We are also looking at a quick question like, it's not here anymore. But there were questions asked like, what are the guidelines to all this? So if you want to find out more, you can click here and check the student's level. If it's higher, upper primary, lower primary, or upper secondary, you can click that, which competition they're going for, either story writing or storytelling, and then look at the guidelines there. It'll be easy for you to go through, because on the basic page, everything's everywhere. So it might be it might be troublesome for you to figure out what you want from this page alone. So this will help you get to where you want to be. All right. So just a quick through of what the questions are for today. Usual rules apply. In this session, we'll not take up, we will not be addressing any hands up points from Zoom, even though it is the normal behavior to have in these sessions. We will be addressing questions only in the Q&A. If it's in the chat, we will not be answering those questions there. So let's see for the Q&A. We have, okay, so Zurina brings up a good point here. Pupils nowadays love modern apps like TikTok and Canva. And we're to see more competitions involved. Canva is a website where people use to make posters, make content, make media that's easy to consume. Nordalila then asks, it's very hard to involve parents again. And parents and students like awareness in learning, especially online learning, and any suggestions. So we've gotten this question multiple times. So I'm going to shift it slightly here. So we've talked about us approaching teachers. Sorry, we've approaching fellow teachers, approaching students, and approaching parents. We've also talked about how we can recommend things that parents can do with their students. But now another question comes out. We are going to be dealing with a lot of social media, a lot of online platforms. How do you handle a conversation about that? How do you get a parent that isn't so welcoming to the idea of online platforms or alternate forms of learning that they're used to? Maybe they're used to just books, or maybe they're just used to having talk format classes. What about activity-based? What about performance-based, theater-based? For some parents, these are all weird things. And in the previous part of the session, we agreed that one, teachers kind of have to embrace being weird. But how do you have that conversation with parents? So for this one, I'll leave it to Dominic just to chime in on this one. How does the conversation go when you have it with the parents when it comes to theater?
Yeah, I would admit it is a very new and unusual way of an approach that many parents don't understand. Even many students don't understand. But for me, I think it goes back to us being patient. I don't, in 1 week, slam them with new ideas and my wacky, crazy teaching methods. I think we don't want to scare people away. Especially with these new techniques, using drama and using games. I think parents have this natural reaction to just be taken aback because it is not within their comfort zone. It is not something that they are familiar with. And it is very normal for them. What I like to do is just to meet them where they are. And I think communication is always important. So I would talk to students and parents to understand where they are in life, what do they do. It sounds like a lot of work, just having regular communication and conversations with parents and students, but I think it is necessary for them to gain our trust and to understand that we are not as crazy as it looks. We may have crazy ideas, but we are doing it because we think it will help. But what I would do is introduce it bit by bit, slowly, gradually, introduce them to new ideas. I'm not saying let's throw away all the traditional methods of teaching. I think traditional methods of teaching, it's still there. It's still a big part of our curriculum and our methodology. I would say use the traditional methods, and slowly put some spice and flavor into it. But slowly, you don't give someone food that they've never tasted before suddenly. You need to slowly let them taste a little bit by little bit. So in the bigger picture answer is I would take time, but I would be patient to get my ideas to come across clearly.
All right. To further this conversation, so Puan Salina, you have experience that travels multiple generations, and I'm assuming you've seen a lot of things come into, I would guess, what's the correct word here? That come into style and then fall out of style. So how has your conversations gone? Because I'm interested to know more.
I get what you mean. When I first started teaching in 1987 in Mersing, there was no Astro then, no YouTubes and all that. I had to go home to JB and record Mr. Bean series from SBC and bring the videos up to Mersing and show Mr. Bean to the kids because they'd never seen Mr. Bean before. But the objective of my lesson would be for them to fill up certain scenes because, Mr. Bean is more of a gesture type of acting, right? So no dialogue. So I would get the kids to put in the dialogues, and they had a lot of fun with it, even though they might not be very good at English. But then, of course, they were asking, Cikgu, how do you say this, and that? But what's most important for me is that you, as the English teachers, do not speak first language with them. Can you do that? Do you think it's impossible? Because where I was in Mersing, when the kids want to come to see me, they would have to say it in English. Or else I would say, no, you go back, ask your teacher, write it in English, come back and see me, and then read out whatever it is that your teacher wanted. That's what I do, And at the end, the kids know that when they come and see Puan Salina, they will have to speak in English. Simple be it, or even if it's written down, I will accept it. And then, of course, I will bring in videos. I bring in songs. Then we don't have those small speakers that we have nowadays, or you can just use your handphone to teach songs from your phone. I have to bring in the big radio transistor into the room. But I guess nowadays you also do songs with your kids. For example, if I want to teach, if I were, the grammar, if you were to do it using just the books, it would be very boring. Okay, so I will carefully go through some songs. Let's say, if I were rich man, you know that song? Right? Don't even know. If I were a rich man, diggle, 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 diddle, daddle, dum, do, do, do. All day long I'll diggy, diggy, bum. If I were a very rich man. Now, the kids were not born when you had fiddlers on the roof, But when you get action songs like that, oh, they would love it. It was an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini that you wore for the first time today. Those kind of catchy words, just to get their interest first. That's what I would tell all the teachers. First of all, before you step into the classroom, the English classroom, think, what are the things that you can do? What are the tools that you can use to instill the interest so that they'll say, oh, this is my English teacher. Oh, this is Cikgu Asai. I know there'll be a lot of fun in my English lesson. You see? So with that, you will drive your students to learn the language, regardless how difficult it is. And of course, with low proficiency student, what's important towards the end of the show or the session, you have to show them or tell them that they have achieved something, no matter it be at small scale or a larger scale. For example, you get a low proficient class to write a whole lesson, a whole text. All right, if it's an essay writing session, you ask them to write a whole text in over like 1.5 hours. Okay, have you finished? Of course, they will say, no, teacher. But if they are low proficient students, maybe get them to do group work. In each group, do one paragraph. But of course, you will have to guide them as to the skeleton of the essay. Maybe this group will do this one. Maybe first paragraph. Second group, another paragraph, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, collate all the paragraphs, get them to write all, and then they know that, hey, I have written one text or one essay. But it's a group work. And it's done when you can collate all them doing together. They feel that they've achieved something. That's also very important. Then give them a star. Oh, look, you've done this. Well done. I'll give you a star. That will give these students a sense of achievement. And you will raise their self-esteem. That is important. That is what you call the human touch, in which whatever lesson you're teaching, get them to realize that I've achieved something. And this will spur them on for the next lesson.
I would like to highlight those three things that Puan Selena did. One, she's mentioned about the human touch. That's a really important thing because one, yes, we do have to submit our study plans. We've got to achieve these quotas where we get the students to learn specific things, but they're learning it with you. And if you're not there, if you're not present as a human being, that's a reason why students sometimes don't really pay attention to the Zoom screen because they're watching another screen on another screen, which isn't fun. Two, attention grabbers, which was what Puan Selena did. When she sang, I think the whole panel, and I'm assuming everyone else too, kind of like, just like, whoa, what's going on? That's an attention grabber. And quite a few of them exist. For example, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is a completely meaningless word in English. But I remember till this day because the teacher that taught it to me was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So this ties into the questions that were asked, like how can all school teachers, asked by Nur Aini, approach these competitions and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just you learning with the students, approaching this together, asking them like, what do you think do they need to do to get to those websites, to those landing pages? All right. Now, I want to break down the question about how to do all these programs, these activities. So, Sir Sai, you've been doing it with TikTok and social media. We had Dominic who talked about making things weird and then giving everyone a little bit of a taste. We had points in to talk about transistors, which is a very, very specific technical item that was brought to class. So equipments that you need to bring to class to make classes work, to get the class going. But so, Sir Sai, would you mind breaking down your approach to using TikTok? Because TikTok's a challenge. So I have just learned more about TikTok. So I'm not going to say anything other than, for me, when planning out my videos, I do house husband content video stuff. So like, it's generally how do I break down the video and then make it coherent? But that's me. How would you as a teacher approach it for the students? What's your breakdown to getting students comfortable in using TikTok beyond the presumed dances and lip syncs?
Okay, this is also the similar question posed by Nur Izzati Taib, right? So she's a newbie teacher and wants to know how to start with TikTok. Okay, first of all, you can browse through TikTok, get ideas from fellow educational TikTokers, especially English language. There's a lot of contents that you can take, you can learn, and you can copy, but you can use it in your own version, right? That's one. The second one is learn from your students. Ask them what are their problems in learning English. Like they don't know how to pronounce certain words, right? So this is how you get the content for your social media, right? For your TikTok, right? And sometimes I would give a list of words to my students, and they would pronounce it. And that's how I know that some students pronounce Wednesday as Wednesday, vegetables, right? And this is what students, weak students, and this is the reality of life. Not all are good in English, right? So this is our job to educate them. Okay, and another one is that some students, they don't have the tools to involve in such a platform. So for me, I give them my microphone, I give them my digital camera. They will take pictures, they will like have a conversation, have a dialogue. So they will give it back to me. So that's why I edit things and make it as a content for my videos. And that's how you can relate to the students because they are part of it. They've contributed something.
Thank you, Sasai. So I like that approach. I specifically am exploring the whole lip sync thing. I feel that lip sync in TikTok is a very valuable way to teach students pronunciation without making it a chore because one, through the act of repetition to get lip sync perfect, they kind of memorize the whole phrase.
Yeah.
So does she love me? It becomes a sound bite in your head, a soundworm that doesn't really leave. And those soundworms kind of start forming a vocabulary for students. And I enjoy that. I also agree with the whole scrolling through TikTok. When starting off with TikTok, I really didn't know what was going on. But after following a few really good content creators and just watching it a few days, I kind of got the idea of what they were trying to achieve. There are also quite a few content creators on TikTok that explain how to grab attention in the first few moments so people watch through the whole video and stuff like that. So if you're looking for more content specific to TikTok, I would recommend opening TikTok and looking for content by Sasa himself, or just to other educators using the hashtags like education, teaching, English language, or even lip sync challenges. And from there, you'll start getting better and better content for you to work with.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This was a great small intro to TikTok. Now, there's another question here by Nama Matthew. For speaking activities, normally I will ask students to prepare audio or record an activity based on a topic. I did get good feedback from the parents too, but this year, this approach doesn't really click for some classes. So I guess this question, it's not really a question, but it's a statement where this previous activities didn't work that worked in real life classes don't really translate well. So I would say, I would form it into a question where, what are your experiences, Dominic and Puan? What activities did you used to do that in MCO it just doesn't work, and maybe help us figure out why? Did you experience that going into MCO? Let's start with Sasai. Do you have any experience with that?
Speaking activities, because it's very hard to get them to be on the camera and talk. They will be quiet, and actually, I ask my students, they're actually waiting for their friends to answer, to help them. So one person waits for another, and another one person waits for another, and it will become a long silence. So it's very, very hard. But I do get my good students. I personally DM the good ones in order to get things started. So hopefully it'll work from now on.
All right, Dominic. I would assume that your previous activities had students ice breaking, playing giant trolls and elves in live spaces, and now having to shift to online. What's an activity that for you, Faye, doesn't really work now? And can you figure out like what was the cause of that?
There are a lot of practical activities that we used to do physically in the classroom that just cannot work online anymore. But after more than a year of doing this, I think we've kind of adapted and we had no choice. So I've tried various ways and easier ways. So not as complicated as all the theater games that we would do in class. But for example, now that everybody's online, I would start the class with using the chat function because I know they don't like to, like Sir Asai said, getting them to speak online is really, really difficult. Even turning on the cameras is another challenge. I guess it is how it is. As teachers, we need to find ways. So, for example, I would start the class with using the chat function, and I'll say, okay, everybody put in an English word starting with the letter B in the chat now, and they'll just keep flooding the chat with words starting with the letter B. And then I'll say, okay, now that I know you're all here, maybe something like design your virtual background with the word that you just chose, starting with the letter B. If they chose the word basketball, okay, find a virtual background of basketballs. And then they start getting interested. Then I'll tell them, okay, use the word in a sentence, and one by one, I'll call out your name and use that word. So I will slowly warm them up this way. I always find the chat function the easiest because it is the most non-invasive, non-direct way of reaching out to them and for them to reach to us. And they're very easy, using their fingers on the keyboard. They love doing that. So it gets them hooked first. I always believe in starting the class with a hook when it comes to online teaching. Just hook them first. Once I have them hooked, I will use whatever they gave me and quickly adapt it into an activity in class.
All right. Just to discuss what hooks are. Hooks are usually either a sentence or phrase that sticks to the mind. I mentioned one before was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but it can also be an exercise where the basic form is simple, like, okay, string 3 words together. And then the next challenge is string multiple words together and make a short rap. And then they'll be like, oh, how do I do this? And so the whole class is hooked on that idea of trying to solve this challenge. And you build around that. So that's one form of a hook that happens.
Yeah, so for me, I would make it a progression. So first, give me a word in the chat. Use that word. Get a virtual background. So I've got them to chat. Then I've got them to get a virtual background. So that makes them turn on the camera to show off the virtual background. So next thing done. Now I want them to speak. I'll tell them to use that word and unmute your mic and just say that word or say that word in a sentence. And then next step, they've already unmuted their mic. I would do that progression slowly. So like you said, Umar, thank you.
No problems. All right. So I want to move this question to Puan Sarina, but I want to reframe it. So you have experience being a headmistress, and I'm quite sure in this group of 546 people, there are some that are going to be headmistresses or headmasters in the future, or perhaps they already are. What's your conversation then in approaching this classroom format that's moved from concrete walls to digital platforms? What's your say so in let me rephrase that. How would you have that conversation? How would you approach all these activities and then making it work in a digital era?
Okay, I think this is more of management coming in. Collaboration. I will always feel that if you work things on your own, single-handedly, you will feel quite alone, especially when you face these problems, these challenges, as you say, things that's workable in the classroom but not online. It is best if you were to work together. That is why we have sessions. As principal, I would hold sessions for the teachers to sit in small groups and maybe create resources and share them out. When you have that sense of esprit de corps or that sense of belonging, it makes you feel quite safe, knowing that what you are doing for your class is the same thing that other teachers are sharing, And, when they get to sit down and think of ways to get their kids to speak online, you might never know. Another person will have a better idea. And also, when you try to come up with the modules yourself, it will take time. But if you just sit down and share out the modules, okay, you do this. So you feel that it's fun working together collaboratively. That I would do with my teachers. And again, from time to time, I would also give in that pat on the back that they need. If you are out there, the viewers, some of you are senior teachers. If some of you are the head of panels, if you're a senior teacher, you always have to do that with your own teachers. Do not take for granted that when they are done, that's it. They've done their job. It's not just more of a job. It's more of us working together and making our teachers also feel good about themselves, knowing that what they have done is something that others are also doing. The challenges that they're facing will be the same challenges that the other teachers are facing. So knowing that you are not alone, especially and with this chat that I'm seeing in this group, there's so much sharing here, which can't occur if we don't have this webinar. You see, so as the head teacher, I would do a lot of motivation, some food by the side, because food is also very important to get the teachers going on. Sandwiches or something like that, create an atmosphere in the school where teachers find it fun to work and where they feel that their work is very much appreciated by the senior teachers and those upstairs.
All right, thank you, Pasalina. All right, so another person here, anonymous attendee asks, now we're using a Supermind book for our small children, but with the help from technology, we brought this in our class and remind to our children to do revision, but some of them enjoy their lesson well, whereas some of the problem students or poor pupils are unable to participate very well. So how do we deliver the knowledge to them more effectively? I apologize for choosing this question. I also am not quite sure about this. I think I will have to pass through that. And on that point, if you do have questions, please do take the time to write it out so that it's easier for me and for the panelists to go through it and answer it. Because if it's not clear, it's kind of hard for us to also address it in the way that you want. Because I understand that a lot of teachers want information. It is going to be hard for me to give that question if it's not presented well. So I do apologize for that. But I do want to attend this, so I hope that you do rewrite your question again. All right, currently it's 11:06. I do want to give a chance to the panelists to grab something to drink and breathe for a bit. So I'm going to take a short 2-minute pause just for the panelists to grab their cup of water or something to just refresh for a bit, and then we'll restart again. While they do that, I'm going to share the platform one more time. So if you're just joining us, or if I was too fast in the previous show, showing off the platform, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and share. All right. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our HIP for Teachers workshop. We're discussing ways for teachers to better their classes, to make better their classes for their students, make it more engaging, get students to be more involved, enjoy the classroom so that the learning happens well beyond the classroom doors. To do that, we give you eKelas.com.my. It's a platform for students and teachers alike to find themselves there, to find content, to find works, to find slides, to find workshops for them to improve on not just the English, but their way of learning, their classes, and to approach this digital era. After we do ask that all teachers do register themselves here first, and then for their students too. There was a question that asked, does the student need to register themselves? And we say yes, because if they want to participate in the competition, you can only submit if you have an account. There is not a way for you to submit via any other way. You have to have an account, access the platform, and submit on your own account. We also remind everyone that we can only submit once, so make sure that it counts. Please remind the students not to upload anything yet until you're sure that that's what you want to send and then submit. But at the end of the day, we do ask that students do submit something. It may not be their best work, but if they've tried their best and this is what they have, be proud of it, that they attempted it, and make sure that they send it. because the PAGSK marks are divided between submission as participant and submission as in you've won a position, third, second, first place, depending on what's there. So yes, at the end of the day, at the 30th of June, please make sure your students have registered and submitted their works. Daftar or log masuk melalui this button on the top right. Then go to the HIP Story Fest button there and click it, and you'll find the main page for all the content. To make sure it's easier for you to sift through, choose the appropriate category, either upper primary, lower secondary, or upper secondary. All right. And from there, I think every teacher here can figure out where to go next to access all the information that is needed. All right. So going back to the questions that we've had so far, we discussed about how to approach students who are shy, how to have conversations with parents, about their workshops, the weirder content, embracing the weirdness and having your students come along for the ride, enjoying the class. We talked about how to approach TikTok, how to break it down into a much more palatable experience is the word I look for. We talked to Pansalina about what has gone in the past, going into the future, how to engage in conversations if you one day become a headmistress or headmaster, respectively. So now I want to access into the more nitty and gritty to it, I guess. A lot of teachers here who may have been part of the past session who are coming in now again, and maybe want to ask specifically, like, what is your more personal approach to classes? What's your I guess we talked about process, breaking down stuff, but we haven't really talked about your own personal way of being a teacher. What makes you approach your process that way? If that makes sense. Does it? I hope it does. Because I think this helps teachers who are here understand why or what it is helps you approach your classes. Because it is a big thing. It's a huge mental block. Physically, there's nothing there, but it's a huge mental block in approaching better ways to be a teacher. So I'll start this conversation first with Sai.
Yeah,
because there's quite a few fans here.
So both the most important thing is yourself as a teacher. Make sure you are presentable, well-liked. You don't need to be handsome or beautiful. You just need to understand them. Make sure in their eyes you are hip because you know a lot about them. And in order to do so, you have to get a lot of conversations with them, have them open up. So usually before class or after class, have a session, talk about their hobbies, right? So this is in a way that in their eyes, you are a hip teacher, right? And then I love to have incorporate current issues, current trends in my lessons, something that is related to their life. So that's why the conversation is really important. So we know that currently they like BTS, they love Ariana Grande, right? So we can put that in our lessons, right? In order to be hip.
Thank you, Sasai. All right. So Dominic, what's your approach? What's your core that makes your workshops work? Or what's the core approach in you teaching your students?
For me, the core approach would always be going down to their level, so to speak, to try and understand where they're coming from, who they are. I like to always start by making them talk about themselves. I know sometimes they're uncomfortable, but I like to show that I'm interested in them, and the activity is not about me, but it is about them. So I want to bring them out, but I want to meet them first. So icebreakers it's a very old-fashioned thing that we've been doing since we were kids that I feel always works. And when we start to melt the ice and break it, I think we just need to be very patient for getting that process done. But I always like to go to their level. I always like to know more about them, and they like to talk about themselves. So simple things like tell me the first letter of the place where you were born, or the town that you were born. So if you're born in Kuantan, your first letter is K. So I'll tell them, give me the first letter, and then we all have to guess which town in Malaysia you were born in, or give me the year that you were born plus the month plus the date. Simple activities that make them have to think and then respond to me. But it is talking about themselves, and it is them learning that I want to know more about them. So I like to know more about my students. For me, that's my entry point. Letting them feel that they are the star of the show.
Oh, Thanks, Dominic. So, Sir, as I mentioned, holding conversations. His core of what his classes are is making conversation happen between himself and his students, and then in developing it further. So, I'm assuming that at the end of it all, at the end of the day, the students have had an amazing conversation with Sir. Dominic works with ice breaking, with slow and approachable steps for the students to slowly get to a level where they feel comfortable, putting the spotlight on them instead, which is a pretty cool thing to think about because Dominic does teach with theater too. So now I'm going to go to Puan Salina. You have experience over a long period of time. So we're not talking about just one thing that works. We're talking about things that have come to work and then gone out of work and then come back to work. And then, so I want to talk about the process. What was your experience? What was the process in which to find what works and what works for you? Because we can talk about all these processes, but at the end of the day, what works is what works for the teacher. So what was the experience for you?
Well, actually, it's not what works for the teachers. It's what works for the kids. Like what Dominic has said, you have to do your research. You have to know your students. You just can't go into the classroom and say, okay, this is the topic that we're doing for today. We're going to do around the world in 80 days. And the kids will say, what? I mean, going to, balloon ride. These are the things, especially when you're teaching period pieces. You're teaching a literature component. And you talk about around the world in 80 days. Yeah, what's it for me? They will ask you that. So first of all, you need to picture what is the end product of your session. You can't start without thinking of what you want them to achieve at the end. What is the product? Do you want them to write a letter? Do you want them to write a poster? Maybe come up with a script or something like that? What's the product? So the process that you have to go through, of course, you have to plan well. You have to plan first something which is doable in just an hour session. If it's a low-level class, you can't expect to put in 5 objectives. You will fail at the end of the day when the kids are not able to acquire all the 5, will not be able to achieve all the 5. When you plan for several classes, you can't plan the same lesson plan for everyone. Think of the kids in mind, put yourselves in their shoes, and think of what they love to see in the classroom. That's why you need to have lots of resources, lots of teaching aids, which will get them to be interested and say that, hey, I can relate to this, So if Mr. Asa is saying something about songs which they can relate to, yeah, well and good. But I'm not at your level, and I don't know what songs BTS does and things like that. So I would go back to the old songs, which I love. But then again, link them to something which is current.
Yes.
Talk about Tell Laura I Love Her. It's a love song, isn't it? Get a love song which is current, and then you can compare and contrast. But at the end of the day, Omar, get them to feel that they have achieved something. Make them feel good about themselves. If you are saying, how come you're not doing this? This is very bad. You're not going anywhere. You are actually demotivating them. And like Mr. Asai said, you have to be like the sunshine coming into the classroom. We get to see that you don't say, good morning, kids. You have to say, good morning, everybody. And they will feel that you are the sunshine that comes into the class, and they'll be ready to learn what you are going to give them. But I feel that this intrinsic motivation that you've got to drive into your kids is one thing. The first of all, you yourself will be that drive. Secondly, your content, your resources. If I say about going around the world in 80 days, going to Suez Canal, going to Hong Kong, going to Italy, where are all these places? I would take the effort, the extra effort, to borrow these globes, that you have from geography, and place them around the classroom and tell them, okay, from Liverpool, you go to London. Here is London. And then from London, you go to Europe. You go to Italy. This is where it is. And then you have to go to Bombay. You have to go to Calcutta. This is it. Then you go to San Francisco. This is it. So make them feel like they are immersed in your story, immersed in the content. Get them to understand, if it's a period piece, what were the things that they ate then? How do they dress themselves up? What were because when I learned literature in UK, our lecturers will bring us, when we learn literature, they will bring us to the museum, to the theatre, to any gallery for us to really understand the culture, what do people eat and things like that. Because when you can understand these people, it is much easier for you to drive you to learn the language. Try it actually. Well, of course, it's a lot of effort on your part, but it's very rewarding when you get these kids to imagine, to actually imagine what's going to happen in your piece, even though it's a period piece, something which is quite alien. Because when we talk about English, you have to talk about the snow, right? And people in students in the Orang Asli area, they can't visualize what snow is. You have to bring snow into the classroom, and that's where creativity sets in. I guess when people say, every time everyone say it's creativity, but creativity takes time. Like I said, you learn from your other counterparts as well. Discuss with your other teachers; they might give you ideas. So that's how I've always been doing my part as an English teacher. I would try to make whatever that they learn in the classroom realistic, doable, and I will bring them outside of the class. Have you tried bringing your students outside the class? How can you sing songs like What a Wonderful World if they are staying in the classroom? We have to take them to the school field, get them to sit under the big tree and sing the Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World. So, kena rajin lah as an English teacher, take them out of the class, make it more realistic for them. Make them have fun. They can make noise while they are reading their scripts, outside, under the trees or by the seaside. Oh, I did bring my students to the seaside, to do my English essays. That as how far I would go to that extent. Thank you.
That truly does work. So we had an amazing input from all three panelists. Puan Selina talks about how to bring the students out of the class, approach them. Her approach was always to make the students feel good, make them feel like they are the center of the world, and to always make the class as engaging as possible. Dominic talked about setting achievable standards by breaking down your class goals into smaller, more achievable steps, because the first step is always scary. So when they get past that first step, then the subsequent steps become easier and easier as they go along. And we as teachers have to facilitate that experience in learning. So as I talked about conversations, in making sure that the class centers to them. And all these three approaches are something that I'm assuming every teacher here can use and utilize in their way in approaching their own core systems in how they become a better teacher themselves, how we improve ourselves as we become teachers. All right, thank you to our three panelists for an amazing input for this session. I do think that these are approaches that we can implement for online class teaching also. I think it's easier now too because you no longer have to cut out all the stuff for class. We can always use our sharing backgrounds. We can go to Worth It for location-based food video content. YouTube has quite a few content that's based on areas and locations around the world. So outside of the classroom can now mean going outside of the usual screen share and text and panels to moving towards videos, exploring locations via tourism videos or food-based videos. I personally really like Worth It's YouTube videos on Vietnam. It was a lot of fun to watch that. So check it out. I think that the teachers also had quite a bit of contrast in that approach, with Amine talking about like more physical, more movement-based, more getting the students comfortable with approaching certain steps, and Sasa introducing creative and a bit more weirder approaches to learning, which are about more or less the same thing, but there are different approaches. And Pansana taking more of a, let's move in a way where students can learn in more data-rich formats. If that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, I do apologize. I will start to reframe this. If you're wondering, yes, this video is recorded, so you can always watch you can re-watch this session again to just glean a few more facts or data that you may have missed. We will have a text-based answer sheet from the comment section and also the Q&A later on the platform. Which platform? You already know it, eKelas.com.my, and you will find it there later for you to access it. We'll also be emailing and contacting everyone, so everyone is in communications as to what has been discussed today. All right. Now, a few more questions left before we end our session. We'll be ending at 11:30. So at 11:25, I will be doing one last run-through. I'll be doing one last run-through of the platform just so that everyone's fully comfortable So I'm taking a page out of Dominic's playbook. I'm going to make it as easy and as approachable as possible for the platform. So that ideally, if we get as many teachers here, we'll get much more students on that platform too. So a quick run through of the question area. Let's see. Okay, so this one I think is really important here. So Nunazira asks, I always believe that English is beyond the classroom walls. It's always interesting, but how can I map English with exams? So this is the question that parents usually ask me whenever this comes up. So for PT3 and SPM, both require skills and techniques. How can I establish correlation between these in-class activities with exam format? Now, I think I'll start with Puan Salina first.
Well, this actually is a very interesting question. Teachers, when the Lembaga Peperiksaan, when they come up with the items for every subject, they will also refer to the curriculum. They will refer to the syllabus. So don't worry. If you are actually in your planning, manage to complete whatever that is laid out in the syllabus, don't worry. They will be the questions will be whatever that will be the same as to whatever that you have done in the classroom. Where English is concerned, we can't just depend on the books, totally on the books, because it will not create that interesting sessions with the kids, especially those who are quite challenging. So just carry out what you're doing. But again, I would like to remind you, you can inculcate lots of fun, enjoyment in your classroom, but you must make sure that you are in tandem with the objective set. And make sure that at the end of the lesson, the students will have acquired the 4 skills, or either of them. But when they are done that, at the end of the year, I guess, then maybe you can do your revision and just to make sure that they will be able to answer the exam questions. In all my years as English teachers, I would always encourage my students that it is not difficult to fail, but it is also not that difficult to pass in your English if you know where are the parts where you would encourage your students. For example, in writing, in summary, Cikgu Ashai, please correct me if I'm wrong. Even when it comes to summary, for example, there are ways and means of how you can gather some points here and there. And with that, I think the teachers would have to have some experience with those who mark the papers. I don't know, Cikgu Ashai, whether you mark or not, but you can't declare that, right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, for me, language is something that if you teach them seriously, but in a fun way, and get the students to be engaged and get them to love the subject, inshallah, they will be able to answer the questions. If they are good students, then maybe you need to upgrade your level of questioning, because where exams are concerned, there are only certain questions that are for the A grade students to be able to answer. Okay, so be it there. But for the mediocre ones or whatever, there are also those sets of questions for them. So as English teachers, you need to know, with all these KBAT coming in, kemahiran berfikir aras tinggi, with the KBAT coming in there will be the elements of KBAT in the questions. So as teachers, when we teach as well, we need to also inflict that element of KBAT. For example, but it still be in English language, right? For example, questions like, okay, you want to build a house. How would you like to build a house that will suit you and your family? That is KBAT, But you are using language or English language to get them to bring their ideas across. So knowing I wouldn't say that you have to know how to mark SPM questions. I'm not saying that, but it does help if you know that which parts of the questions that would help the mediocre students or the low-level students to pass the exam. That would be helpful. That's what I've been doing with my students when I was immersing. I would also say that having workshops with experienced teachers helps. So for teachers out there, try to find time maybe to create a workshop, e-workshop like this, get teachers who are experienced Maybe get your officers to help you out getting experienced teachers like Teacher Asai. I would get the Johor people to invite him to teach how to do TikTok, effectively for classroom lesson. So these kinds of bits and pieces of experienced teachers coming in with their wares would help you to become better teachers. But do not, I would like to remind you, my piece of advice, do not teach in order to pass the exam. That is wrong.
Yes.
That is wrong.
Yes, I agree.
That's a wrong
Yes,
attitude.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Puan Salina. It's a really important thing to do that. We want to make sure that students enjoy learning because learning is a lifelong process. It doesn't end at the end of the exam sheet. Now, we do have 1 minute left. So I have two things I need to do. One is to just reintroduce again the platform and also bring Puan Lily in here to just wrap up the session. But I would be remiss to not give just a last moment to all our panelists to give like a very quick sentence, maybe a bit of a motivation to all those who attended here. Sasai, one short sentence just to give everyone a good luck.
So during this time, it's very hard time. So just keep holding on, keep doing what you're doing, and know that your responsibility is to educate our students. All right. So keep it up.
Woo, just keep swimming. Dominic, what's your last sentence to give everyone?
I would say we are all teachers here and we all have different ideas, but discussions like this help a lot. If we can keep working together, if we can keep having conversations as teachers to share our successful methods and things that we've done in class, we would be so much better. So I think we need to keep talking to each other. We need to keep sharing ideas. You are not alone. I am not alone. Together we can do amazing things for our students. So we need to talk to each other more.
Puan Salina, last few words of advice?
SOS.
SOS. All right.
Have our soul. As English teachers, when you are, really reaching up to the wall with what you are doing, create interesting, lively lessons, take them out of the classroom because you will feel the fun as well. You will feel as invigorated as the kids. And that helps you to pull through. Okay? So
Thank
good
you,
luck to
Puan.
all of you. Do good to your kids. Just be sincere. Love them all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our panelists. So if you're feeling fuzzy and warm and all things motivated, act on it. Go do all those things. Go talk to your fellow teachers. Go write it down. Go prepare your study plans. Just go and do and have fun with that. Puan Lily, give us a wrap up for today. What's our wrap up?
Thank you so much, Teacher Umar. To see such passion coming out from this sharing session, our chat comments are like busy with all the comments and discussions and all that. And for us, we are so proud on behalf of Maxis class. We are so proud to be part of this session. And what I witness here, like educators here, being like once an educator, you are always an educator. I myself continue to learn. Like what Puan Salina mentioned. Puan Salina mentioned. You are the sunshine. So even in a work environment, like when you work with team, you need to be the sunshine to your team, so that you motivate, and get things working. So on that note, again, thank you to our panelists, Puan Salina, Sir Asai, Mr. Dominic Luke, and Teacher Omar for moderating the session. Thank you so much, for your commitment and to have this robust discussion and sharing with our teachers. To all the teachers out there, thank you for tuning in, and we are proud to host the session, and we will continue to arrange for a session like this so that we have more learning. We can learn from each other. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Puan Lily. So that's it for our panelists for today. So the panelists will now be leaving the group. I will just be here to finally wrap up and just to show the platform one more time. So everyone, goodbye to our panelists. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much. All right, so I'm now relieving the panelists from the arduous tasks. It was an amazing session from everyone. Thank you to all for sharing and making the chat group an amazing place to be. Like really, for teachers who are feeling stressed out for MCO, it's a terrible time to have to go through. So share your burdens, talk to your fellow teachers, maybe make contacts now and explore what you can do cross schools. Now, just to wrap it up for today, I'm going to do a final share of the platform, which also gives the chance to the panelists to leave without being seen. So I'm just going to share right now. So it's going to hint that. So hint. Okay, so here we have the platform again. So the link is eKelas.com.my. It's eKelas.com.my. You'll see the picture here. This is the landing page you want to find yourself at. Then click Daftar Log Masuk. After you do that and register, I will quickly exit after this because I don't want to show you my registration links. So after you do the whole registration process, you will then be given access to this page. Now, this by itself, if you can, I'm just going to give a much more thorough exploration of this page. We have Hebat Dalam Exam. Hebat Dalam Exam is a series of videos that we did to prepare for the exam. So if you need content to help your students out, we have it there. Then we have lives for our live streams. Over on the left side, we have timelines, we have inbox for contacts and messages. So if you ask us, how do we keep in contact? That's where you'll get your mails. We also have communities, so how to communicate with other teachers, contact. Then we have groups. If you have a group, you can group your students together and have them attend classes together. You can have them have discussions and see other discussions that have been happening. You can go to the blog format or even have students create blogs. Some of the workshop request students to make blogs. All of this is formatted for you to help your students become more aware of the digital platforms that are available and, as mentioned, become a digital citizen to be more connected to the online world in a healthy way, I might add. Now, specific to today's format, which is HIP Story Fest, you want to click there and you'll find yourself at this page. HIP English Story Fest Competition 2021. So we've had this last year and this year we've made it again. There's two ways to participate. You can either write an essay with provided topics or record a video of yourself telling a story based on prepared script. Now, to make it easier for yourself, go to its course categories and choose one of the following, either lower secondary essay or storytelling, upper primary essay or as such, and finally upper secondary. So all these divide you to your pertaining classes. So if you're teaching a primary 6 student, you want them to register and find more information, you want to go to upper primary. So click upper primary, let's say we'll go for essay writing. So you want them to practice on their writing. So you go here, you'll go to updated essay writing guidelines to find out more about what you need to do. I'll click that in a bit. And then let's see, essay questions. So there we go. So we go to upper primary, lesson 1, essay questions. So when you go here, once a student has completed all the other slides, all the workshops that help them approach it, you can then go here and click submit your essay here in this link. You want to click that, and that should give you the form in which you will then submit your final product. It needs to be in Microsoft Word. If your student doesn't have Microsoft Word, you can use Google Docs and then export in Microsoft Word format. How do I do that? Just a moment. Google Docs. So Google Docs is a free platform. Docs. Okay. So it's a free platform. You can go here and then you can export. So there we go. Hold on. Is it loading? Okay, it's loading. So you want to do this. So we have, let's say this is your final assignment. You want to click file. You want to go to download, and then you can choose the Microsoft Word Docs. You want to submit that format. We only accept that format. All right. What else? Okay. So let's say you want to ask where I can find more about the questions. Just a moment, sorry. So here you can take the course and then start course. And there we go. So all of the information is here. So I'm just going to slowly scroll through. So here's all the information that you need to start writing. And then after you've completed it, then you can submit. But Teacher Uma, like, where do you want to go for like the guidelines? How do I know more about what I need to teach my students to best prepare them for submission? That's where you go to all the other classes. Introduction to how to write, and etc., etc. We talk about writing the body paragraph, writing the conclusion, how to write a basic format for it, how to approach writing. All of it's prepared here for you to share with your students and explore together. And that's basically it. The other formats are similar to, I'm going to stop it there. So that's basically what it is for eKelas.com.my. And again, the links are provided in the chat, so you can find it you can find it there. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Teacher Uma. I appreciate everyone for joining this session. I know it's 10 a.m. on Saturday. So again, thank you so much for joining. If you have anything you need to do, please leave and go do it. Your attendance has been recorded because you did RSVP this. If you're watching in a group, only the person watching this account has registered to attend. If you have other people along there and you want to be registered as attendants also, please make sure that they take this last few minutes to come online now. Like, I mean, if you can still. If you can't, then I do apologize. You're not officially attending. So go do that chance. But that's it for now. 462 people, I recommend you leave soon, because if I leave now, it might crash the account for you. So I would recommend you leave so it completes the session. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Farid. Thank you, Milan. Thank you, Felicity. Thank you to all the other teachers too for asking really good questions, really sound questions for our panelists to ask. I think you, as much as I enjoyed it, we all did, in getting the answers from our teachers. They were truly amazing. So it's great. If you have any other further questions, please register on the platform and ask us there. We will then ask us there, and we will respond to it and as soon as possible. And if you're wondering, will the answers for all these questions be will it be uploaded anywhere? Yes, it will. It will be compiled, but it will take a few days for us to just download all the information here and then prepare it back up online for all of the rest, for all of us together to be able to access when at ease. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. This is HIP Teachers Workshop brought to you by Maxis. I'll find you all in the future at eKelas.com.my. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Leave now, please, so that I can turn it off. If not, it might crash your account. So please do. Thank you so much. 295 people. Go. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. If you're still here and you have any more questions, just feel free to ask them in the future. We'll hopefully have more sessions of this in the future. Other than that, bye-bye. I leave so I can exit. I don't want to end the session before you've left so that it doesn't crash your PC. All right. Once it's at 100, I'm going to turn it off. Once it's at 100, I'll turn it off. 125, 123. So close. Have a great Saturday, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.